Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Young, as Acting General Counsel for the first 6 months of the administration to the Department of Defense, you were the Chief Legal Officer of the Department. In that period, DoD support included controversial use of military aircraft and personnel to transport people in DHS custody from Guantanamo Bay to El Salvador, among other places. And you are a lawyer, you understand that the Fifth Amendment applies to people in the United States, not just citizens. And you are also aware of the constant number of cases being pursued on behalf of people who were identified. As a Chief Legal Officer of the Department, did you ensure for each removal operation supported by DoD military personnel and planes that the removal of the manifested individuals complied with the Fifth Amendment and applicable court orders?
Senator, as we evaluated each one of those removal flights, we worked very closely with the judge advocates and chairman's legal to look at the nature of the flight, what was being questioned. We coordinated with the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that the people who were manifested on that flight were not subject to any federal court order or restraining order for their movement. And we also worked to make sure that we had a manifest that had that documentation on there, sir.
Did the Department of Defense or its personnel ever take custody of the individuals transferred?
Sir, when we conducted one flight, as I understand, in sometime, I think in March, in that flight, the Department of Defense provided support to the Department of Homeland Security under Chapter 15, which is our typical method for providing support to the Department of Homeland Security on these removal flights, sir.
Interesting. But the situation is, I think, more complicated. Secretary Rubio boasted publicly on March 31st that the March 30th flight, I think you're referring to, from Guantanamo Bay to El Salvador, had transferred to El Salvador 17 people who had been in the United States. It appears by all public information that the transfer was in violation of at least 3 court orders, but yet you say that you've pursued, every flight has been verified to ensure that there was no violation of court orders.
Sir, within the Department of War, we tried to do our best due diligence to determine whether or not the personnel who were requested for transport had been cleared by the Department of Homeland Security and that they were not subject to any court order or restraining order on their transportation. Each individual has numerous cases across the United States. There's thousands of people who are in the process of post-removal order actions, and each one has their own. The Department of Homeland Security would develop a manifest based off of people who were served post-removal order and would then provide them to the Department of Defense with a request for transportation under Chapter 15, sir.
Well, before you approved that flight, and it was a DoD flight requiring approval by the Department, presumably the Secretary of Defense, with your advice, did you confirm or obtain from DHS or anyone else that all due process has been exhausted for these individuals and that no court orders were implicated?
Senator, I did. And again, as you mentioned, this matter is under investigation by the Inspector General at your request, so it would probably not be appropriate for me to comment further on that matter.
Well, I think your comments would be important because you're suggesting, I think, that everything was cleared by DHS when, in fact, in court, Tracy Hewlett, Unit Chief for ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations, testified that those individuals were moved, quote, by DoD on a flight with no DHS personnel on board. DHS did not direct DoD to remove them. So your counterpart, or one of your counterparts in DHS, is saying it was all DoD. They received no clearance from us or information about legal status, and that is completely illegal. Department of Defense personnel cannot act as law enforcement officers and violate the Fifth Amendment of the United States. Thank you.